Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with CEF. We have some great guests with us this morning, two of whom are from St. Elizabeth's School in Altadena. And we also have Scott Higdon joining us from the Department of Catholic Schools. We want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. We're heading east to Altadena to visit St. Elizabeth Parish and School. So joining us this morning is our Dr. Phyllis and Deacon Doug Kramer, the principal and deacon, respectively, of St. Elizabeth. We also have Scott Higdon, and Scott is the coordinator of marketing enrollment at the Department of Catholic Schools. The Catholic Education Foundation, if you are new to us, we provide tuition awards to 10,000 students every year in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, and that is thanks to the support of our donors. So we hope that this little virtual field trip that we're offering now to Altadena can provide just a glimpse into what's going on in our Catholic schools and help you get to know our students, administrators, and families, especially the ones that we serve at St. Elizabeth School and Parish. We'll be back on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. every week with guests from throughout the Archdiocese. Last week, we went down to Bishop Conedy, which is in Los Angeles, and we met a couple students and the administrators. Please keep those students in your prayers this week and next week because they are all taking their AP tests remotely and they need all the prayers that they can get. If you'd like to view last week's event, you can see it at cefdn.org/coffeewithcef, and there is a link there to view our videos on our YouTube channel. So first of all, I want to welcome Scott Higdon today and invite him to share some facts and figures from the Department of Catholic Schools. So Scott, can you tell us the good news?
Thanks, Katie. First, I want to say I worked with Phyllis recently on a small cohort of schools. Thanks to the generosity of some of our donors, we were able to fund marketing initiatives. And so we had a small group of 9 principals who actually were able to create their own website, and they made it from scratch. They run it. So Phyllis was one of our star students, and her website is live right now. So if you go to her website, she's the one who made that all by herself. And so we're teaching principals, the kind of ins and outs of marketing as well. And so strengthening our leadership and giving them the tools to basically run what our small business is. So Phyllis is a rock star. So I'm happy to listen to what's going on with her. And so at the Department of Catholic Schools, as you may know, distance learning is going on for the rest of the year, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Obviously, we're sad to not be able to see and hug and be close to one another, but that doesn't mean there's not lots of good things going on. Catholic schools were able to make the transition. I guess it was 2 months from today that we were able to make that transition, distance learning, and we were able to do it. They announced on a Thursday, I believe, and by the following Tuesday, every school was in some stage or another of distance learning. Distance learning in Catholic schools means much more than just getting homework assignments or picking up packets. Some people in other institutions, that's all it is they're kind of getting those assignments and they're just picking it up. And it's not very personal. But what distance learning at Catholic school means is student-teacher interaction, that personal attention that marks the signature of Catholic schools. Also creativity, getting to take this time to do different things, interact with your teachers in a different way. Also using critical thinking and personal growth. So these are the kind of priorities of the Department of Catholic Schools. And classes are still continuing every day. Students get their normal day of instruction, not just in their core subjects, but also extracurriculars. You could see videos online on social media of students still doing PE, arts, music, language. All these things are continuing. Our Catholic schools are all about developing the whole person. And that means that doesn't stop. Even when we're apart, we still develop them mind, body, and spirit. Our schools are also staying active in the faith, attending online mass and staying connected to parents, to our parishes. The priest was actually teaching religion over Zoom, and that was a very cool picture. And so we're still connecting with the faith and being true to our Catholic selves. Other than academics, we've been able to distribute 20,000 technology tools like iPads, Chromebooks, stuff like that to students, mostly from low socioeconomic areas. So all those technology pieces that are in the school, we just handed out. And those students who we haven't been able to totally fill their needs, we're in the process of, I think we only have about 500 left to totally close the technology gap. So through the generosity and partnerships, we've been able to close the technology gap and truly make sure that no student is left behind. Also, we're serving over 12,000 meals a day to the communities that are surrounding our schools. So basically, if you're under 18, you can come to one of these lunch distributions at one of over 30 sites and get a meal. And so we distribute over 12,000 a day, and we don't discriminate. Anyone can come, even if you're not at our school or affiliated with our school. And so I think the grand total is somewhere over 300,000 total. And so we're very excited and proud of that, fulfilling the mission. We've also partnered to deliver sports equipment to students who are at home so that they can stay active and be healthy, even when, you know, there's not a whole lot of options out there for as far as sports participation. So giving them these tools, they can go outside and, you know, play with their brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So at least they have that. And finally, we are planning to end the school year strong and start the next year smart, and most importantly, safe. Things change on the regular. Everyone knows that. There's always shifting recommendations from the government, public health officials, but we're going to follow them and make sure that everyone's safe. And importantly, we are going to honor our graduates, both from middle school and from high school. We're so proud of their achievements. And even though we can't have graduations in person as yet, we're coming up with definitive plans to honor them, which will be announced hopefully very soon. And we're working with individual school principals on doing that smartly and safely as well, so they can celebrate their great achievement of graduating from Catholic school. That's what's going on at Catholic schools in kind of a nutshell.
Thank you so much, Scott. That's absolutely wonderful. This is all wonderful news. I'm going to make sure all of these facts and figures get onto the show notes later so that you can all take a look and see what the awesome successes of our Catholic school system in the Department of Catholic Schools. So thanks, Scott. We'll hear from you again soon.
Thanks.
And you're welcome. I'm really, really, really excited actually this morning to have these two guests with us today. Dr. Deacon Kramer are joining us this morning, and they serve an absolutely beautiful and vibrant community in Altadena at St. Elizabeth School and Parish. They have been credited as, and this is a direct quote, growing good humans at St. Elizabeth. And they bring with them an expertise in ministry, management, and leadership gained through decades of working in higher education. Welcome, Phyllis and Doug. And first of all, my first question for you is, what are you drinking this morning? What have you got in your cup?
I'm drinking tea. I'm a green tea, and it's a special mug. It is a Mr. Rogers. It's a Mr. Rogers cup, and his sweater changes colors. It's really cool. Yeah, but it's got all his quotes, and the first thing we did as a staff community was go and see the Mr. Rogers movie, which everybody needs to go see it. It's wonderful.
And I've got my usual morning double espresso in my little nice glass cup because I start every day with at least two of those, and it gets me through the rest of the day.
Well, you are a busy man, Deacon Kramer, so I'm not surprised you need a couple 4 shots of espresso to get through the morning.
Yeah.
I have some questions for each of you this morning. For those of you who are unfamiliar with St. Elizabeth School and Parish, I'd love to have the Kramers tell us a little bit more about your community and each of your role there.
You want to go first?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead. You're the principal.
Well, our story, in fact, we started 20 years ago. We brought our oldest daughter. She would be just finishing kindergarten. And we purposely came to St. Elizabeth because of its warmth, its genuine, authentic personality and spirituality. It's a very unique place. And so when we got there, it was just, I don't know, it just felt right. It was what we needed to do for our family. And so through the years we served off and on. Doug became a deacon, and then there was opportunity for me to serve as principal. So it's neat to be the alumni parent and Deacon Doug's wife, and now I'm the principal. So that's how it kind of flowed.
Yeah, we had, we're both lifelong Catholics, and we met teaching together in a Catholic high school in San Bernardino in the mid 80s. And we were always looking, once we got married and started a family, about where to live and where to raise our kids. As you could expect, a mixed relationship like ours has its special challenges and concerns you have to think about where you're going to live and how you're going to raise your kids. And we actually found St. Elizabeth through a colleague of Phyllis's when she was working at the University of Laverne, who was in Altadena here, and said, "You have to come check out my parish. It'll be the perfect place for you." And
Everybody says that. Everybody
yes,
says
and
that.
this was in the mid 90s by this time. And we had our youngest daughter was about 4 years old. And we came to a mass and we saw this wonderful, diverse, welcoming, exciting community. And then, as Phyllis tells the story, we went to one evening mass and thought, this is just the group at that mass. Let's go to another one. And we drove. We were living out in Laverne. So we drove to Altadena for several weeks, coming to different masses at St. Elizabeth's, and realized that it was just this unique place that had this kind of vibrant diversity and acceptance. And there were so many different people, so many different shades of brown throughout the entire community, people of different socioeconomic statuses, people of all sorts of different backgrounds who all came together at this church. And, not to be too rosy, it's not like we don't have our struggles and our issues that everybody has, but it seemed like home. And so we moved here in the mid 90s to live in this parish and send our first daughter and then our second daughter to the school. And then we both started working in ministry. We did pretty much everything from pastoral councils to chairing the pastoral councils to lecturing and Eucharistic ministering to baptism preparation to helping out with youth ministry, which is where we started, and then just kept out here. And then I, after much deliberation and work, answered the call to the diaconate. I was ordained almost 6 years ago. And then 2 years ago, Phyllis got the call to be the principal at the parish. And we couldn't be happier to be serving our community the way we are right now after all these years.
I'd love to hear a little bit about the history of St. Elizabeth Parish and School and what your community has been through over the past 100 and change years. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, we got bragging rights here. Okay. St. Elizabeth we're over 101 years old. We're one of the few parishes in the Los Angeles diocese, or at least within the San Gabriel diocese, that is over 100 years old. So I have to say that this is our second pandemic. We've got this. The church was supposed to be inducted on our feast day, but they couldn't do it, which was 1918, and they couldn't do it because they were sheltering in placing because of the Spanish flu. And so they had to wait a year. And then the school came to be from the Sisters of the Holy Names. They came to establish a school, and they established the school in a house, and then until the school got built. And this is a picture. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is a picture. I don't think you can see it very well. The school as it looked in 1928. Isn't it a neat picture? The kids they're so cool. Some of our pillars of our church was a part of that picture. So what keeps me not going, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do, is because they've already lived through one pandemic, and obviously the school was doing well 9 years later. It did well, and they survived the Great Depression. They survived World War II and other environmental challenges.
And there was the small thing about the whole school burning down in the 60s.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Having to be completely rebuilt on a new site. And so, the history of the place is thoroughly used to dealing with very significant challenges and finding ways to thrive through it all. Yeah. So
we actually
this is just one more.
Yeah, it is. We actually need to create buttons that says "We got this," because we do. We've got this. I would just say this amazing spirit about us, and I do just really want to quickly give a shout out to Scott, because I don't think Scott remembers. He was helping me with the website 2 days before we had to shut down. And so he really guided me through the process, because, without this website and without having the social media and all that other thing, we couldn't really respond to a lot of things that we're doing. So just people interested in the school. So we're set up to where we can be self-sufficient and start moving in and out different, they use the word pivot, that I can pivot to what I need for the school. So we're excited about it. Very, very excited.
So I have a comment that I want to share with you from one of our audience members. As a parishioner at St. Elizabeth, I love that introduction of Doug and Phyllis. They hold our community lovingly and tightly in their respective ministries. And thank you so much for that comment that came from Christina Correa. And it leads me in to my next question, because you are obviously doing this very successfully, but how are you continuing your ministry during the pandemic? Doug, could you tell us more about what you're doing for your own community and the greater community?
It's tough, as anyone can imagine, when you can't be with people in the way we normally are. So the smallest thing I've been doing is I've been posting a weekly video through the parish's Facebook, just reflections on scripture and spirituality in times of darkness and challenge. Phyllis and I actually published a chapter in a book on business leadership that dealt with Western spirituality within the workplace. And especially the focus was, how do you deal with toxic leadership, and how do you rely on scripture and tradition and some of the early Christian mystics to deal with that. So it applies also to dealing with things like pandemics and isolation and all the struggles we have. So I've been doing some talks based on that have been going up on the Facebook page, and supporting our pastor as much as I can. He's been doing daily video masses and everything, as you can imagine, from the church. And then just trying to stay in contact with people through texts and emails and things that are in the community, and letting them know we're thinking about them and praying about them until we can start actually being together again. One of the things I've seen Phyllis do a lot with hers is that same thing of, how do you keep communicating with people in these times? And she's been spending an incredible amount of time. She had already been doing a weekly newsletter, usually about 2 to 3 pages of notes and goings on for the parents. And then that expanded into she's been having a series of individual meetings with each of the parents and the kids through Zoom, and then also having these large group meetings with sections of the school at a given time. And so a lot of it is, as I think we've both come to realize, that communicating with people and intentionally doing that is not the thing you do when you have time. Mm-hmm. It's the thing you do as one of the core responsibilities of the work of the ministry, right? That the communicating with people, like what you do even with this every week, right, is part of what you have to do and should always be doing. And I think in some ways the pandemic has just really highlighted the essential nature of that sort of constant connection and communication with folks as a part of the ministry itself.
Mm-hmm. No, I think too, there was an article, a newspaper article that says, what will you keep after the pandemic? And it made me think. I was like, okay, so this is just not for a time. This is like, how's it changed your outlook on things? And yeah, Doug, I would get up at 7:30 in the morning and I would have these meetings. I would be putting in about 14, 16-hour days. I think I'm putting in more time. I think the one thing I really like doing, and it's a quiet thing, but on Wednesday evenings, I have families jump on and we do the rosary on Wednesday evening. And it's so neat to see the kids, and they all get a chance to have a prayer request. They give us a prayer, and then they pray the decade of the rosary with their parent, and then we all just take turns. And it's been fun. The first time I did it was just 2. Now we're up to 8 families. We'll see what happens tonight. I have to say the Department of Catholic Schools has been nothing but supportive and a strong resource for us. And so we had this wonderful Zoom collaboration a few weeks ago, and it led to me sponsoring Spirit Week this week. So the the color for today is yellow. I'm wearing gold, but that's about it, but it's yellow. And I'm going to be doing a cooking class later on tonight with the kids. We're doing a no-bake cinnamon rolls. That's what we're doing. They're really good too. I have to be careful with that. But I'm looking at diversifying more of my communication, actually setting up a, a YouTube channel. I thought that was for 12-year-olds, setting up the school needs a YouTube channel. But that's something I think I want to continue. And then what I also see too is more of parent formation. And our formation is so tied to sacramental preparation. And I really now see that the parents who are wonderful. So I've met with 94 of our school parents. So I've met with 2/3 of our school. And my parents are rock stars. Some of them have cried because they're frustrated. I've laughed with some of them. They said, "Dr. Kramer, you can't catch a break, can you?" And we just fall out laughing. And just amazing families that have that resilience of the, of the earlier. We basically are standing on shoulders of giants. My faculty and my staff, not heard not one whining from them. If anything, I need to tell them, get off the computer. Why are you up at 5:30? No. At least get on at 6:30 or 7:30, but they're up at 5:30. They're communicating with students until 7, 8 o'clock at night. My faculty and staff are just a godsend. I honestly will say no whining out of them at all. If anything is, what can I do more? How can we make this better? How can we do this? I think it makes it easy for me to be able to just say, okay, this is what we've got to do, and just do it.
All right, I'm going to bring in another question from the audience. This is an easy one. How many students do you have at St. Elizabeth? What's your enrollment like right now?
Our enrollment right now is 206, and that's across our average class size is about 18 to 20. I would love to keep it around 25 if we can afford it, just because of just the interaction that the kids have with each other. But that's what we have. So we have a program from TK through 8th grade. My dream is to have a preschool. But the pandemic put a squash on that for a while. Probably won't see that for another 5 years. But I would love to open up a preschool in an area.
She's wanted to run a preschool since the day I met her.
Okay, that's true.
This has been like a lifelong dream of hers. But it seems to fit also in terms of just a strategic plan for the school too, to start bringing in kids at a younger age. And we have the capacity in terms of space already, thankfully. Yeah. With the plant that's been built. So I think the two overlap nicely.
Well, so I'm going to brag just really quick about our mommy. We have this really neat, and we have to stop it now, which is just a bummer. It was Mommy and Me on Tuesday mornings. We had Miss Betts, our TK teacher, and Miss Kathy, our kindergarten teacher, both women who are wonderful parents and wonderful educators, spend an hour and a half with kids in the community. We did, it was an early literacy program. It was free. And I'd be sitting in my office and I would hear this like screaming and crying, and I run out. They're mad that they have to leave. These kids don't want to leave.
And they're what, 3, 4 years old?
They're 3 or 4 years old. And it's like, okay, don't want to mess with that. But they are just, they have a good time. And so from that has been a feeder into our TK and kindergarten program. But it's more than that. I think it's just what our community needs. It needs something to help parents be better parents, because then it winds up being a parent education conversation, while the kids are getting to do some, like I said, early literacy and some socialization. So it's been a really good program.
And how's your enrollment looking for next year?
If I could raise enough money, I would just like to have just kind of say, okay, the tuition's being taken care of, you're coming. The majority of my families are coming back, but it's always with the caveat is if I have a job. If I have a job, we're coming back. So right now, if we opened up, I would still be, a little shy, but I would still have my enrollment. So my enrollment right now is stable. We won't know until the actual opening of school because things are changing.
But you've also had a healthy inquiry, and
We
people,
had a
lot of people about bringing their kids to the school have also been has been increasing despite everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
We're
very
still
true.
getting an
That's
interest. What do you have? Maybe 20 families?
Yeah, 20 families are interested.
That have been talking to her directly. She'll do online like Zoom open houses now and send out emails to people, and they'll log in, and she'll spend 2 hours the other night talking to just prospective new families in a Zoom meeting, and had I think 10 or 12 families there, something like that. So you keep finding ways to do it and get the message out, and people. And again, it's a lot of it's word of mouth, right? That's a lot of our marketing. We just have to realize that it's people who've had a wonderful experience with our schools make referrals. That is the basic way that most people get involved for the first time in a Catholic school. Is they've got somebody that said, "Hey, I've got this great school I'm a part of. Why don't you come join us?" Yeah. And so having people feel that way about your school is like so critical.
Yeah. Because then it will feed into the parish.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at. We're actually feeding the parish as well. So it's a circular thing. And I think Doug and I are very good examples of that, because it was word of mouth that got us here, and look what happened. You could be a deacon and a principal, but that's where we're at.
So what are some of the unique challenges that faced your community prior to this crisis, and what kind of challenges are?
I don't know if it's so much unique. Well, because I think we're now literally all in the same boat kind of situation. How we take care of those who are marginalized, due to income and housing and everything, is how to strategically take care of them, how to educate our kids in an affordable way, making Catholic education affordable for whoever wants it. I think right now for me, it's really how to make sure we have enough stability financially for the school, because our annual fundraiser, the gala, was a week away. It was supposed to happen on March 20th. That was a very depressing day, because we get dressed up and we have a good time. We were actually going to have LaSalle and their jazz band come and play, and they're really good. And it was going to be a night in Barcelona, trying to find ways strategically to raise funds, still support the school. And I think that's where, at least for my challenge. And so I've got some really nice, a parent who is not working, has volunteered to do a fundraising video for us. And so that will help us with our 1919 fundraiser. We did one last year, it was a magical night. I still get tingles thinking about it. But we met at a parent's house, a former parent's house, and the stories that they told, I wish I would have had a camera just to record the stories. It's something that, again, goes back uniquely to our parish. Our parish is, when we talk about diversity, what's really neat, I remember one of the stories, picking up our oldest daughter from school. She comes running up and she goes, "Mom, look, we're all the same color." I go, "What is she talking about?" So her friends, it's the cutest thing. So they did it like arms. They did 4 arms. I honestly could not tell them apart, other than Bella has a freckle, and I knew that was Bella's arm. But even she had a friend who was Salvadoran and Native American, Filipino and white. Even her little red-headed Irish friend, somehow they were in the sun enough to where they were literally one hue. And if you look on my website, you'll see it. You're kind of going, wait a minute, they're all this nice brown. And so I think what I don't want to do, if anything, is lose that. I don't want to lose the wonder of them, whatever's going on and whatever we can financially do. I don't want to lose those good families that trust in us. We have 20% of our kids are not Catholic, and they happen to be the best Catholics You know, they participate in our school masses. They prepare well to lecture and to sing. They're part of our service projects and everything. And then we've got 14% of our families are qualified for free reduced hot lunch. So we've got this social economic pattern, and literally we're in this microcosm that I think is what the world should be like. You know, it shouldn't be one of X or, you know, the high level or whatever. We're all getting along, we're all doing it. So I think that's another neat thing about this picture. I'm pretty sure that has been a part of our DNA for a long time.
The challenge is the same at I think the parish and the school, in that in a lot of ways we are blessed by the particular demographics of the North Pasadena, Altadena area. The parish actually sits on the border between
Literally
the two
towns.
And so half the parish is actually in Pasadena and half the parish is in Altadena. And the diversity of this area is something that the parish reflects very clearly. And I think one of the challenges we've had is being okay with that, understanding that this is who we are, understanding our authentic identity as this diverse, collaborative, sometimes conflicted, sometimes confused group of people that are trying to make their way through life in this area. And that's fine. We can be that. We can do that. The parish itself is, even in the 20-some years we've been involved, right, has gone through significant demographic changes, as many communities have. Most of our younger families are Hispanic. Most of the older families are Anglo-ish in some way or another. We still have a strong African-American community that's always been a part, a strong Filipino community that's always been a part of the parish as well. But things change and things shift. And then we're dealing, of course, with the issues that are even within the Hispanic community about language, generational shifts, kids that, you know, marginally speak a little bit of home Spanish, but mostly live their lives in English. And they have their grandparents who are trying to keep them in the old traditions, and their kids that are tugging them out into the rest of the world. And how do you create a community and a ministry and service that doesn't just lump people into little ethnic pockets and say, well, this is how we do it, but really understands everybody and their families within the diversity that they are and represent, and find ways to minister to them completely, understanding the challenges of their unique positions, but also that nobody is homogenous, nobody is just the same. There are differences and diversities within all of our families, all of our experiences. I mean, ours is just more visible, but they're all there. And I think in a lot of ways we have tried through the parish and everything to understand that and to accept it and embrace it, rather than try to resist it or change it or mold ourselves into something that we aren't. And rely on that, like going back to the stories of going through the first pandemic, right? This is who we are, and we need to live this and love who we are and everyone else who comes along. And that's always the vision we try to hold up there for folks. And it addresses the more mundane issue about, I think, marketing, branding, and all the ways we talk about those things in a kind of business related way. Because if you genuinely are authentically who you are and who your history is and who your people are, and you find ways to communicate that and express it and show it and love it and hold it up, people will find that attractive. Not everybody, because you can't be all things for all people, but it'll resonate enough with the community and people and who they are that they'll want to be a part of it. And it's a hard thing to trust sometimes and to do, but I think that's what the strength of your life on. God has put us here in a certain way, in a certain place, and in a certain package and combination of things, and we need to trust that and root ourselves in it and celebrate it in lots of ways. And when we do that, it shows.
A comment from the audience that I want to share. This comes from one of your member of your community. God really blessed our community with these two. Look how they grew within our parish and now our school too. I speak as an alum, parishioner, and staff member. So thank you, Maggie, for that comment.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Christina.
So I've gotten some questions from the audience about your revenue, your fundraising, and things like that. And I think that, we're getting these questions because your work with the parish and the school is so inspiring to so many people. And what you've told us about the way your community interacts with one another and supports one another is also very inspiring. And we're really lucky as a church to have individuals like you who work so hard to meet the needs of your community and lead your families to provide for the greater community. So what I want to ask you is, what do you need right now, and what can we do to help you?
Well, I am within days of kicking off the 1919 campaign. We just saw a rough cut. I think we're ready to launch the video. The note cards will be coming in any day, and we'll be sending them out. One, I want to thank the supporters. There are some wonderful supporters of our school. I could not make it through a school year without you. And so I thank you publicly, and I will thank you personally later. I would like to cast the net a little wider. And for those who are saying, well, where can I make my dollars work? I can show you where you can make the dollars work. We run lean and we run hard. And so I now have a goal of $250,000 to raise between now and the beginning of school. And I actually have a donation. I have $12,500 from a donor. And I just shared the story, just kind of getting ready about for this and just sharing where we're at. And they said, I'll give you $12,000. I'm going, okay, really? And they said, yeah, I'll give you $12,000. Okay. But they said, just make sure it's a challenge. Make sure other people know that they expect some people to match that amount. And it's in the 1919 fund. So when you go on our website, you'll see, if you go to support us, you'll see the link about the 1919 fund and the donation link there. But what the monies will do is to help with operations. And usually the fund is for tuition assistance. So it will still be for tuition assistance. And it will also be for operations. We've got some delayed maintenance that needs to be taken care of. So I'm going to take advantage that the kids are not on campus right now and get some work done. So when they come back, the campus is clean, it's healthy, it's ready for them. And then the COVID situation. And we don't know what we're going to be asked to do. And so then if I'm running lean, that means it's not in my budget. So I at least want to be able to say, we can get X and we can get this, we can get that. And so I want to be able to not worry that we cannot meet the needs. Mm-hmm. And I know that Father Modesto is also suspended some of his fundraising, but we've got beautiful stained glass windows that are in jeopardy of falling apart, literally, if we don't do something. So I think, and someone says, well, stained glass and everything, but there are people, when we told people that they could not go into the church sanctuary, how sad they were. Mm-hmm. We actually did a drive-in mass. I don't know if you guys saw that, but we actually did a drive-in mass. And how people were just appreciative, just, again, like Doug said, just to be with their community and everything. So again, to be able to create the space and the time to take care of business. And so when it's time to reopen those doors, that we're ready. We're ready to meet people where they are, because people are going to come back from a marathon. This has been a marathon for some families and for some parishioners. And so to be a place that is a respite for them. So the funds, like I said, 250, that's what I'm going for between now and the beginning of school to raise, and to hopefully be ready for everything.
Well, I think there's a couple things too, that she spent 25 years in higher education before becoming a principal at St. Elizabeth's, and I still teach at Woodbury University in Burbank. And one of the things you learn there about fundraising and everything within a higher ed environment, and Micah will know this, people don't want to spend money to like slap tar on a roof, but they will give you money to help a kid go to school. And if we raise enough money for scholarships, we can pay for the roof, and we can pay for this and pay for that.
That's very true.
And so this came out of the parent. Very true. So we had that meeting she talked about a year ago that started the 1919 fund. Was the school was in a big financial hole, and the parents of alumni stepped up and said, we can raise money to keep this school going, because we know what a gift it was for our children who are now adults, right? We all know that sort of prime giving in terms of fundraising and everything are people in their 60s. So who in your 60s or in your communities that had their kids go to school, your school, who now see the kids as adults, and they see in their adult children the fruits of their time at that parish school? I mean, that is such an emotional hook to talk to people about. Can you give us something? Can you give us anything? If it's, even if you don't have a lot, right? $100, $1,000, $5, but something, for people at that age who are now looking at their kids and going, wow, this school really helped my daughter, my son become who they are. I want to help somebody else's daughter or son become like them. Right. Becomes a huge approach to them. And then if it's pitched in terms of exactly that, we ask for money for scholarships so families who can't afford us can come. And then the money shows up, and if you have enough tuition support, you can use it to pave the parking lot or fix the roof or whatever else, because that's all necessary in order to educate the kids. Right. And so if the language isn't about operations, it isn't about this and that, but is literally about scholarship support and financial support for the school in order to educate these young people, it's a much more effective messaging. And if all of us can be more consistent with the way we approach things in the Archdiocese with that kind of messaging, right? That it's about the kids, that it's about helping them and their families, first and foremost, not about all the things that, occupy our mind and that we worry about. The support and the money will I think be more readily available for us. But it takes that kind of consistency of messaging and that constant kind of focus on the things that matter most to those people who are asking to help us out. Mm-hmm. And if we can demonstrate consistently that what we're doing is that, the support will be there.
The best supporter right now that I have is a woman who gives me $25 a month. I look for that check because I know that she's there. I mean, that says, so it's not, because I get excited just to know she's doing that. But I think what Doug is also mentioning is it's the relations, it's letting people, the people who are my bigger supporters are people who saw their family get transformed by Catholic education. I mean, the stories, near tears about how their dad stopped drinking, how the nuns, if it wasn't for their nuns, I don't know where I would be today. So it's those stories that just, you kind of go, okay, we can do this, we've got this.
All right, we've got a question from the audience from Colleen Welsh.
Kramers, I don't know if you remember me, but I am Nora's mom from the class of 2012.
Yes, how are you? Hey, how are you?
Wait, I have a picture. I have to, on days like this, we have to have fun. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
There's Bella right there.
There's Bella back there too. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm dying to know, since your darling Bella is such an amazing product of Catholic education, what is she doing these days?
She's at work right now, or she's ready to step off the elevator, I think. She's got a really...
So Bella went to Dominican University in San Rafael, right? Graduated there
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
4 years ago.
So she stayed in the Bay Area, and she's on her third job since she left the college. She's now the office manager and chief assistant to the CFO of a venture capital firm in San Francisco. And what they do that's really remarkable is they do a lot of for-profit, nonprofit partnerships. So everybody they invest in terms of, and it's all family-based companies, they partner them up with a nonprofit to function as kind of the charity support for that particular family business. And that's part of their whole sort of investment strategy. And she just started with them right as the pandemic broke out. And they kept her on. They paid her for almost a whole month without even having her work, just because they wanted her so much to be a part of their...
Who wouldn't want Bella? That smile, I'll never forget that smile. Cutest, sorry guys, personal.
I know, that's what this is.
But Bella was just precious and was just a light for the class of 2012 at Flintridge Sacred Heart.
We'll let her know.
Tell Nora hi for us.
Nora's even further away. She's working in Vermont. So yeah, she can, but it's okay. Getting her PhD. So she's very lucky. She's very lucky.
Very good. Good. Thank you for being on the call on this.
Of course. Thank you for being a principal and a deacon. That's more important. You guys are a true tribute to the Catholic community. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Colleen. We are so happy that you were here with us today, and I'm so glad that you can make that connection. I just want to say, I think that it is very weird that in this pandemic, when we're all apart, I have found more connections to people over the last 2 months than I think I have in like a year, just from the amount of time I've spent connecting with people virtually, where I get to connect with people and meet people. And Colleen, I'm going to have to email you afterwards about your daughter in Vermont. I'm from Vermont, and so I'm very interested to know what your daughter is doing in Vermont and where she's going to school. So, but we'll take that offline. So I'm so glad that you all could join us this morning. We had some great questions.
I do want to just do a special shout out to Department of Catholic Schools, and to Scott, and to Ryan, and to Teresa, and to Mike, and to all of them, because we principals could not do it without them. We just couldn't do it. So thank you. And my parish and my parents. We just couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. You can see stelizabethchurch.org, saint-elizabeth.org, and that's where you can find more information about the church, the school, and their fundraising efforts right now. As always, thank you all who are here for your support, for being present with us. We are so grateful that you could join us this morning, and I hope to see you again next time. Thank you so much for your support, especially during this time and always in the way that you support CEF and our Catholic schools. Like as you just heard from our guests, school closures don't mean that class is canceled, but it does mean that the school's in-person fundraising activities and major events like the gala that Phyllis and Doug just told us about had to be postponed or canceled. And many families are out of work and facing extreme financial hardship, especially those who are facing financial challenges already. If you can give right now, please visit our website, cefdn.org. 100% of your donation to the Catholic Education Foundation directed towards the Tuition Awards Program, which is for the lowest income students in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles to ensure that they can attend a Catholic school. You will see a link on our website to the Archdiocese of Los Angeles COVID-19 Fund, which aids schools and parishes that are extremely impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. You will receive an email to RSVP for next week's Coffee with CEF. We are really excited to have with us Raven Zaborio. He's the principal of Sacred Heart High School, and he's going to bring some students with him. And Martin Farfan, who is here today. Martin is going to be our speaker next week. He is the president of Cathedral High School, and he's going to bring some students. Sacred Heart is an all-women's school, and Cathedral High School is an all-male school. So we'll get the perspectives from our male and female students in high school right now and how they're finishing out their year. You'll be receiving an email to RSVP. We hope to see you again soon, and any Wednesday at 10 a.m. And thank you so much for coming, everyone. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.